we're doing a deck talk today on possibly one of the biggest glow up characters going into set 2. We're doing it on Earth Ojiro. For anybody out there who hasn't done a deck doctor before, it's one of my sweet Patreon perks. Probably the only good Patreon perk, really. That where monthly I sit down and we talk about a super cool deck, and I've got Red Mage Frank with me here today to talk about Earth Ojiro. So give me the elevator pitch of what's going on with this deck. I'll stream my screen real quick. You can see what's going on.
Yeah. So the big thing for me is I was testing set 1 Ojiro on Earth, on Fire, and then also Death, and it was cute. I was like, I like making you choose between two bad things, right? Either you flip foundations if you block, or you take a bunch of damage. And I just didn't feel like it got there. So once, literally, Internship with Best Genius came out, like that card alone, I was like, huh, okay, maybe try out Earth. And then all the Bakugo combos came out, and I'm like, huh, take 9 damage or flip like 2 foundations per attack, like, yeah. And then you'll see the cheeky 2 of Smash. I'd play it of a 4 of if it did anything else, but it's like, eat 9 or flip 2 foundations, like,
yeah, for sure.
It's a damned if you don't concept.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think this is this deck is really cool. I love Brutal Explosion. I think Brutal Explosion is amazing in this kind of a deck, because it's just like it's a 5 high for question mark because of how Ojiro works, and sometimes like it has powerful 1, right, which isn't stunning, but like it could be enough to get there. Same thing with like Finishing Blast, right? It's got powerful 2. If you play the powerful ability, it gets more speed. I think there's a lot to be said, and even the big thing about this character is he has all 3 Bakugo 2 symbols, and so if what you're doing here on Earth isn't quite getting you there, you can easily take this entire package and shift it over to one of the other 2 symbols and see what that looks like as well, right?
Yeah, or alternatively, like, I haven't even considered a sideboard yet, but I thought about siding into the new Bakugo as an alternative.
I think you definitely should do that, because I think the new Bakugo murders people.
Yeah.
I think he just murders them.
For sure.
I'm going ahead, and I've got more cards that I have to look through now and make sure that we have available to us. Just like looking at options for us to play. So foundation wise, what do you feel? What are your like main ideas, thoughts, techniques, tactics, strategies when it comes to foundations?
Yeah, so when I was building this deck, I'm a Tokoyami main and occasionally Froppy, so like I've always been like thin deck, consistency, go hard, go fast. But when I was looking at Ojiro or anybody that's not a 7-hander, I always have to think, you know, I gotta slow myself down, slow down the pace of the game, control it a little bit more. So I wanted to have a higher foundation count. So when I was testing this with my friend, he was running a Toga deck, and I actually wasn't too aggressive. I was only throwing out maybe 1, maybe 2 attacks when I could, and then just sitting back, because half the time it was just about, you know, staying on defense and making them flip their whole board. Like the fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong, the fact that you can just block with Internship with Best Genius and then flip the foundation as a response, because it just says play, not build, correct, right? I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So like, just the concept of that was silly to me. I was like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
So
100%. Going through and just making sure that we're not missing anything else. Okay. Yep. All right. So I have moved some stuff into the sideboard that I think that we get to talk about. I noticed that you're not playing Detonation Launcher as like one of the double lead in as one of the lead in cards. It also lets them flip foundations, especially on a Smash, right? Like Detonation Launcher into Smash says you're flipping your entire board.
So it's interesting. The original list had them. If I recall, I think I swapped them for the Merciless Rushes.
Okay.
Because I liked the idea of being able to, again, if they block it, and if, you know, they would try to usually completely block a 8+ damage move. But also the low block, right? When I
Right.
originally had built the list, I don't remember what the block zone of detonation launcher is, but I had the original list had a very low, like 9, 10 low block,
Yeah.
and I did not feel good about that. So that's always been something that's like burned me in the past. So I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I had a little bit more even spread. So that's why I made that switch. Haven't tested it yet though. So
Right. I think the biggest thing about detonation launcher is it makes your howitzer impact cyclones feel really good because it like howitzer is one of those cards that says you have to wait a bit in order to snag. You have to wait a turn for it to be like ultra powerful.
right.
And so like if you can go detonation launcher into howitzer, destroy one of your face down foundations that you flipped with Ojiro, you then get to draw 2 bonus cards and then keep popping off.
For sure. Yeah,
And that's
and I
like the
originally
main combo with the card, you know?
yeah, I originally thought maybe, keep the merciless, maybe cut the smash. Because it's a cheeky 2 of, but like block this, take 9 or flip 2, like that just seems really good, but maybe I
Right.
sideboard that or vice versa, right? So
Right. Yeah, I think that's not terrible. We do have a bunch of mids in comparison to our highs and
yeah,
lows. So like maybe that's the option. We as set one characters we get to play the best mid block in the game. It'd be a plus ultra, right? And so
right,
maybe we try the smash. And if you feel like you're not quite getting the value out of it, you're not getting the block that you're wanting, or you're not getting the flip that you're wanting. They're just soaking in the 9. That feels great. But this forces the flip to happen, right? Which means that inevitably the speed is going to happen because this is just like after you play this cool move, right? It's an off zone move, right? Have any other whatevers? And then like imagine detonation launcher into back alley haymaker, and they're forced to flip one just instantly, and then you stun them down, and then you build your stuff, and then so on and so forth. Same thing with like finishing blast, right? The combo of they flip ready foundation, they flip one off of launcher, they flip one off of finishing blast, and then you Ojiro and force them to flip another one if they block. Like it feels great. It feels very, very good.
yeah. So would you say maybe right off the bat, I would say maybe after testing a bit more, take the 2 smash out, put at least 2 detonation launchers, and would you bump it to 3 and say just do 21 cards since I've got a pretty stacked foundation
I
setup?
don't hate that, to the fact of like if you wanted to, you could just mainboard one of them now, right? like you could just
Yeah,
play this, and if you find it, whoopee. Then you feel like if this card's not doing enough, you just toss it in here, and if this card's not doing enough, you just make it this one, right? Or
right.
you make it the other the 4th merciless, because merciless essentially says do 8 damage because them destroying foundations sucks. The biggest thing with any of these cards that say destroy a foundation, with merciless rush and with brutal explosion, is they're going to destroy face downs. They're going to destroy face downs because it punishes your late game of that once per game, right?
That's
And
true.
so that's the biggest issue that I've found when I'm playing things like Turn Dust, right? You can destroy any of your cool foundations to cancel this. Oh, I'll get rid of my face downs because it makes your once per game suck. Oh,
Right.
I guess, yeah. And so like the goal here is that you flip every card on their board, and so that's not relevant. That doesn't matter. But sometimes you're not quite going to get there.
For sure. I agree.
I think we should probably cut this number down just a little bit. And I think there's a couple of 4-ofs that we don't necessarily need to be playing. Things like high value target. Things like it's crazy you're playing 3 battle wars off and not 4. Isn't this like a 0, 2, or 4 of card? like I think 3's like silly,
Yeah.
right?
I don't I think when I was building, my concern again was I wanted to have enough 0 diffs, but I also was really concerned about I had so many mids in the original list. Like what am I, 29 right now, I think? So that was
Yes.
I was just trimming the fat on. I think originally it was a 4. I was just like trim one here, see how I like the numbers. I was focused so much on the block count that maybe I wasn't prioritizing the cards themselves.
You have 26 spams inside of your deck.
Yeah.
Spams are good. They're very, very good, especially with things like best internship, right? But like I think that like we just get to just cut this down to a 2 of, and it feels amazing to just like build one, sit on it, and then build it in with back alley, right? And then it's just live
Right.
forever, right?
Yeah.
All in
Plus,
all,
I really like the foundations that I get. The double effect off with commit effect. You commit it for its own effect. You flip it for Ojiro, right?
Right.
A lot of the Earth foundations like apathetic, super regen. A lot of them have flip effects, and it's like okay, so I flip them. They're only useful the one time. They don't double up with Ojiro. So that's always been kind of a struggle of finding a good consistency level between the flip foundations and commit foundations.
100%. 100%. I think Glamorous is necessary to 4 of.
I was honestly right before we hopped on. I double checked and I was like, why aren't I running this as a 4 of?
Yeah, I think Glamorous needs to be a 4 of, and I actually think Trace Sheik needs to be a 1 of in your deck. I think that you have to play this card at a 1 of just because of how easy it is. So I play in set 1. I play a fire version of this deck, and the biggest thing is this deck burns out very, very quickly if you're just like flip, and you don't have ways to unflip, and that is the big appeal of Death and Earth, and especially with all this bonus stuff that we're doing. I think that we should mainboard 1 Trace Sheik Keep, and I think that pushing Glamorous up to the 4 of 1 is going to fix our low block situation, and 2 is going to feel exceptionally good with Manly Passionate Guy. I think these 2 cards under the Earth symbol will be 4Xs or like 4-3 for the rest of time, because of how good block with Glamorous is. Build it down, unflip your Manly Passionate Guy, stare at your opponent, and say, "Try
oh wow,
one more time."
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it's so.
I didn't even think of that one.
Tactically, it's so good, frustratingly good, truly.
Yeah. Plus, with that upping the low block by 2, maybe I'm not so concerned about the merciless rushes, and I can make those the detonation launchers back again. Because again, I swapped the detonations for those because of the low block issue. But now, if I'm bumping up low foundations, I can not focus so much on attacks having low block.
You know what? Let's actually just take and toss it down to a 2 of and then a 2 of, because we're testing Smash Merciless Detonation Launcher. We want to have enough in the deck that we can test it, but not enough that like, we feel like we're super overloaded, right? And I think that these are exclusively testing numbers because set 2's not even out yet, right? Like these are only hypotheticals, or if we use the forbidden app, tabletop simulator, like we get to test, but like it's not really something we really get to try. It's all theorycraft,
For sure.
Titlets almost style. These all feel great. The big things that I'm missing, so sideboard wise, forcing surrender, not in your deck at all, even a little.
Again, I think when I was building, I was so concerned about so many of my foundations. Their only effects were like their only usefulness was a flip effect. I think I was so concerned about that I didn't want to put too many flip effects because then I might not have enough to turn on Ojiro. Because one of the games I played, like my first 5 foundations were all like flip to do things. I'm like, well, these are either I use them for foundation or I use them for Ojiro, and I didn't like making that decision. So I think that's why I might have not put them in there. But again, low block count.
That is very, very fair. I think that we take a high value target and we put it to a 2 of, and then we put this card in a 2 of, and it's probably going to be a 2 of in your sideboard. I think pound for pound, and this is my hot take. Shoot from the hip. Cards have barely played with the cards. I think it's going to be a 4 of in every deck that can play it, and to the point where I think that this card is going to dictate the symbols that I want to play for the regional in Las Vegas, strictly because of the card that's directly underneath it, and that is Face Shields. I think that this card is going to be a 4 of in everybody's deck running around because everybody's going absolutely crazy about this card.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I just wasn't sure because the original list I was running like I was like, oh, I'll just do throws and pump all these big attacks, and even if they block and take half damage, they still take damage and they flip.
Right.
But I was I don't know. I was maybe a little afraid to put in Faith Shield for one reason or another when I was building.
Well, the thing is forcing surrender. You need to have in your deck exclusively because this has the word combo on it. This has the word combo on it. This has the word combo on it. And so you swing your Merciless, they half block with Face Shield, and they flip it, and you look at your Howitzer Impact Cyclone and go, no, wait, I was supposed to draw 3 cards and not 2 cards. I'm losing my value because it's not a combo anymore. What am I gonna do?
Right.
Especially if you're gonna be sideboarding into Bakugo 2. He has to run this card at a 4 of mainboarded. He's just not allowed to because of card pull stuffing. Things like sticky balls, things like Face Shield are just so incredibly good at just disrupting his turn. It's insane.
All right. What would you think as far as foundations that? Because when I look at the list, like one of the foundations that I looked at, I was looking at Tight Lip, and I'm like, I have so much flip. It's spam, but it's like I have so many flip things. So I was considering honestly cutting those out of the deck entirely because I figured flip 1 for 1 damage versus flip 1 for 3 damage. I'm only ever doing one or the other, I think, per attack usually.
Yeah, I think Tight Lip actually needs to leave. It's one mid block is amazing. It feels great, but we already have, if we go back to difficulty, right? We've got 0 diff, 0 diff, 0 diff, 0 diff, right? And this is a mid block, this is a mid block. So like these technically make up our mid blocks. I mean, they're not as good as the one mid block, but it's a 0 diff. We don't want to hold this mid block. The reason this one mid block is so good is whenever I accidentally draw into it, which we have no draw. We have literally no draw on our foundations. The only draw that we have is on our attacks, which means that we play them at the end of our chain as opposed to redrawing them. I guess we have new training method to like accidentally find a mid block, but I actually think that you could get away with either just cutting them all together and making your deck a smaller count, which is fine, right? 21 cards in your 70 card deck, you're going to be hard pressed to go and find enough attacks in order to make things work. So they could just leave. But if you were determined to play this thicker deck, you just put in the face shields. And these feel fine to build because you just flip them instead.
Fair enough. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, like I said, in the 2 games I played, Tight-Lipped, I almost never wanted to use it because it's like I have to either, again, 1 damage versus 3 damage. Why would I ever pick 1 over 3?
100%. 100%. The other cards in our sideboard, we've got You're So Obvious and Shock Absorption. Shock Absorption takes the slot of Resistance if you want a slightly better block, but Resistance has the Breaker 1. It's got a commit cost. It's pound for pound. Resistance is just a better card than Shock Absorption, but Shock Absorption sometimes, I mean, it's a 2 versus a 3, so it's really that's like your only big question there. But I think next on the chopping block, in order to make this this deck a little tighter, is probably just either Resistance or Manly Friendship. But Manly Friendship feels really good because it's just like it puts 4 damage with Ojiro, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I put those in there. It was originally a 4, but then I was like, that's too much. It just felt too much.
Why is Tutoring Kirishima in our deck?
That's a good question. I think
the only way we trigger it is with Howitzer and /or Summon with Style. Literally, that's it.
What's the block zone in that bad boy?
It's a 3
Maybe
mid.
that was it. It was a mid.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? This was a mistake. I was building another deck, and UVS had my default deck as this instead. When I started building the new one, it didn't go set to current, so it added these to this one. That wasn't
this card is borderline not fair in Bakugo 2. So if we are sideboarding into him, maybe you could find some slots for this, like 1 main boarded and then the other 3 sideboarded. I think there's a 4 of in Bakugo 2. This card's messed up at him. But I don't see it being a ton of value, and honestly, that cleaned up our block zones and cleaned up our stats. Like great, I'm actually like super down to run this as my first. The very last question that I have with what's going on here is, what's going on here? Ready, set, go. The 4 of mainboard.
My friend was running it against me, and it just seemed really cool. So I was like, I wanted to try it. I feel like it's a great card. I wanted to try it out.
I love that,
but I don't know how it would work as a 4 of. I mean, normally I always just jam 4+ ultras in decks that can run it.
Yeah.
But I didn't want too many actions. I always feel like too many actions kind of throws me off my game plan. So I wanted to test it. I haven't tested it with those were a last minute ad. But I wanted to try it out in the deck to see if I liked it at all.
My personal opinion is I think that you should test the deck, and so I'm not going to cut it from the list, but it's probably going to get cut exclusively because of this number right here. I think being a 6-hand size character, this becomes way more inconsistent because this card is only really live when you ready, set, go. On when you're going second and they're going first, they build their 4, you jam down the two bonus, right? Because you're a 6-hand size character, it's way harder to get that magical Christmas land of the 2 ready, set, go, and then the 4 foundations, and you just like jam everything down and like feel great about it. But ready, set, go combined with new training method is an absolute blowout whenever you're going second. Like it essentially says that you get to go first, right? So if this card does trigger, it's good. I think that good players are going to be playing around this card, actually. I think the good players are going to sit down and they're going to see that you have the Earth symbol and ready, set, go on your character, at least for 7-hand size characters. And I don't think that I build 4 foundations anymore going first. Like, that sucks, but that might be just where I'm at because I think my opponent building the 2 bonus, getting the review, getting the bonus draw, I think this card this card blows out turn 1 to the point where if this card is that impactful, especially under the life symbol, life and air, 7 hand size characters, I could see winning the die roll and forcing my opponent to go first because of how potent Ready Set Go is. Actually,
are you thinking that this deck wouldn't run it at all, or would sideboard it and only bring it in if they're going second in game 2 or 3?
It's tough strictly because you're a 6 hand size character.
Yeah.
It's really tough because you're a 6 hand size character, and the fact that it's a 4 diff. If you do check the 3, if you do check the 3 diff, or the 3 check on it, and you have to commit a foundation. Commit 1 foundation to draw a card does not feel great when it replaces a card in your hand, right? Commit a foundation to add a card to your hand feels awesome, but this is pseudo cycling, right? Like I remove this card from my hand to draw a fresh one.
Right.
1 high block is great, but like I think this is probably the first thing to leave our deck, which is going to put us down to 61 cards, 19 high blocks, which is going to even our spread up even more. And then now that we're at 61 cards with 21 attacks, we're going to be finding our combos a little bit easier. But this card, when you see one of these and you see 4 foundations and you stare at your opponent and you pray to whatever god you have that they build for, and you just windmill slam 2 of these down, it makes your game so much easier going first. It actually puts you in the winning position as soon as you get to play this.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll test a couple on TTS with my locals. What was it? One of the top players, Soul, from the provisional. We test occasionally. I want to test with him. We did a local the other week. So I might test a few games against him and a few of the others, and yeah, it'll probably be first on the chopping block. I haven't had a deck that I wanted to jam it into, and this is like top priority deck when set 2 comes in, when me and my buddies get our case. So
right,
I wanted to at least jam it in here and test it out, because this is the only deck that's been on my mind for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. No, I get it. I felt the same way with Bakugo too, right?
Yeah.
Been playing a ton of Bakugo too, and surprisingly, Todoroki won under fire. I've had a soft spot for that deck too. The deck's sweet.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. But besides that, is there anything in here that you like absolutely hate? I put more stuff in the sideboard for like your options. Maybe Naval Laser Beam, but I don't love it. I think you could trade out Naval Laser Beam for Back Alley Haymaker, because this doesn't combo with all of your Fury stuff as well, right? Like this card doesn't combo, so like be wary of it. And so it could be a 2 mid block breaker block as opposed to the stun to draw 1, right? Like this is more flow aggression as opposed to this is more disruption, and this lets you unflip cards, which is important for Ojiro.
Yeah, I was thinking about Naval Laser for the side, because I love Back Alley so much. It's stun because of the stun too, but also because with Ojiro, it's like, okay, I can just build a random 0 diff out of my discard for flip fodder, right? Instead 100%. Of using what's already on the board. So I think of it, but I don't think I have a lot of breaker in the deck besides resistance. So I think that would be
just
yeah,
resistance.
I've got resistance. So putting those on the side and maybe starting to squeeze them into the main. I might consider that, because that was something like every time I look at the deck, I'm like, wait a minute, there's like no breaker. And I'm coming from my Tokoyami deck that has like 4 Ice Storm, 2 to 3 Giant Ice Wall, Evil Gazes, and I'm just like, where's all my breaker? Even
if it's like tosses down to a 3 of and tossing the 1 Naval Laser Beam, like after you get like your engine going, I think it's good.
Cool beans. Yeah, outside of that, everything seems fine. I'm gonna probably look at Ready Set Go as first thing on the chopping block after I test a few more times.
Love that. All right, man. Well, let me see this list, and I'll get you on your way. Okay. Thank you again for the support over on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Keep up the good work. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you. Peace.
See you.